All righty, let's get started with another surf report. All right, so this week this week is from Thursday to Wednesday, so the 11th of November to the 17th of November 2021, and we don't have any full moon, new moon, but the Dreambot, which is what we use for the collective unconscious, is looking out beyond. It's looking up into the eclipse season, which is coming up here pretty soon. And so if you're new here, what we're doing is we have two separate sections to the surf report. The first one is to nail down and triangulate the biggest influence, the biggest energy that you're going to feel. And then in the second component, last half of the report, we're going to be looking at the solution or the behavior that you should be focused on in order to maximize the energy that we found in the first part. So part one here is the triangulation process. And this, I agree, these circles look really strange compared to what they normally look like. All right, so what we have, let's start with the I-Ching. The I-Ching says Hexagram 42, which is increase. It's expansive and getting bigger. It's a good feeling. It's a feeling of, not perfect or anything. It's got its issues as well. But like we all know, if you've been here for a few weeks, that we're working through some T-squares, and we've got the same T-square coming through this week, the Saturn T-square with new planets like Mars as it gets closer to its square with Saturn. And then, of course, Saturn and Uranus. So it's been contentious, and it's been this feeling of one step at a time. You can't do big projects. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't change, even though we have a feeling or an impression or an energy this week that looks like increase. So that was sort of weird in my mind. Started looking at the astrology, and what we find is, when I think of increase and expansion, I think of Jupiter. Well, it just so happens Jupiter is about ready to enter its own T-square towards the end of this surf week. But I'm like, that doesn't make, the emphasis is on Jupiter in that case. It's the center of attention, but with two pressure points on it, doesn't seem like that increase or that expansion is going to be all that pronounced. It may be the desire for it. So then we look at the Dreambot, and some interesting linguistics that we're going to look at. Fourth Earth realized. And I got to thinking that, not all the linguistics come true and everything. And we're kind of set back because we don't have intentional dreams. And that's a whole nother topic. When we put in intentional dreams into the Dreambot, we get very good predictive ability. But these are just dreams around the world within the last 24 hours. Dreambot goes in, looks at them, spits them back out. So anyway, fourth Earth realized sort of to me feels like Dolores Cannon's New Earth, sort of the Law of One material, maybe Ascension. I don't know. Sort of has that sort of feel to it. And then you look out a little bit further past our week, and on the 19th, it's just a couple days past the end of our surf week, we have a partial lunar eclipse. So it's a new moon that's also an eclipse. And guess where that is? Wait, before I say that, the hint is the Dreambot is looking at 3D reality. And if you want to put 3D reality into the zodiac, it'd be Taurus, in my opinion. We have Venus it's there, along with the increase. Nothing like Jupiter, but Venus feels positive, feels beautiful, and wants harmony, and it's elevating. So Venus sextile Mars is a nice one, but nothing like this partial lunar eclipse on November 19th in the sign of Taurus is what the Dreambot clearly is focused on. And so that's why I have these circles The green circle represents Dreambot. So it's outside of the astrology circle because this astrology circle represents this week. So if we were to go into next week, this Dreambot would be right in the freaking center because the partial lunar eclipse is the center of attention of the whole week. I know that sounds like a lot, but ultimately, the overlap that we have is not necessarily this week, but it's something very prominent that's happening just outside of the edge of the week. And so we include it. And it's the partial lunar eclipse on November 19th. And the overall energy, when you look at the triangulation overlap of all of them, is right here. If you can see my cursor. And that overlap is divine expansiveness. And to go into that feeling and where I got that was a little mix of I-Ching, a little mix of the Dolores Canon Fourth Earth Realized, in other words, the Dreambot, and then a definite overlap with the lunar eclipse. These eclipses are definitely divine, and the expansiveness part of that comes from the new moon, because by definition, the lunar eclipses are new moons, and new moons are expansive because they offer new opportunities depending on where they are in your house chart and all that sort of stuff. So, whoa, word garbage. Sorry about that. I put in low congruency score, but if we were to associate this with next CIRF report, these things would overlap perfectly, in my opinion. All right, enough said. Let's get moving and let's get started on the comments first real quick. And if you're like me, your timing, ever since the stupid time change thing, and it's not because of the time change, but it's just, I don't know, time has been messed up. And so anyway, I'm just now drinking my coffee midday. It's about noon here. Delicious. All right. So let's go through the comments on Rumble. Not for me to say is the only comment there, but we had a record number of Rumbles over on Rumble. And so my heart pounds for that. Thank you, everybody. We're also growing on Telegram. Thank you. I'm very grateful. And then obviously YouTube, little by little, getting bigger and bigger. Not for me to say, says another powerful and relevant report confirming the energy I already feel. And a lot of us are just a little bit ahead of that curve. I notice about a week ahead. Of course, I'm working on the CIRF reports a week ahead. So it could be more of a self-fulfilling prophecy there, as I kind of know what the energies to look for are coming up. But nonetheless, let's get back to the comments. I feel like the word inure can relate to how those awakening must walk carefully, because as more of the comfortable slaves that we all are begin to awaken, we can't let the masters know we know what is going on to avoid further abuse of those who are still asleep and innocent or naive to our reality. That is a great discussion point, and one that I think SM later articulates pretty well, but well said. And the awakening process, in my mind, is definitely happening, even with the people that you think that would never wake up. I have quite a few clients. All right. Milo says, this is now on YouTube. Milo says, wow, what a title. Shout out to Milos. I hope you're doing well over there on the other side of the ocean. Human Tiger says, I am keeping my eyes open with November 9th. That was, yeah, it's already passed. I don't, there's so much going on. I'm sure we can find something to fill that day, but, I'm not sure what you were looking for. I don't know if that matches, but shout out to Human Tiger and all the other YouTube folks, especially Teacher Coach EV. and I don't recognize that name. So welcome, teacher coach. I had assumed you had the same time. Okay, so this was my comment about the times. And they had noticed that it was 12, 12, 12 for all the times last week, except for after the daylight savings thing changed. And then my software apparently one day later goes to 11. That makes sense now. I didn't notice that, but hopefully and I forgot to mention the time change. Sorry about that. I grew up actually in a place where there was no time change. And then my first Air Force job was in a place, the only other place in America where there is no time change. And so I got used to this. I had a hard time coming into this real world where the majority of America changes their clocks twice a year. It's ridiculous. But anyway, thanks, teacher coach, for reminding me. That makes a lot of sense. Then we go to Telegram, and Telegram is growing as well. If you haven't gotten on there, the link is down below in the comment section, but SM says, honest question here, how can anyone be sure we are immune to mind control? Doesn't knowing anything at this point in time allow for division? Doesn't division make us more susceptible to all forms of control? Does the search for truth end before the truth is revealed? Even if you don't want to be on Telegram, go there so you can read this whole discussion. Here's my take on it. I'm noticing that I'm questioning everything now. And I think the answer here is, how do you know that you're not, are you so sure that you're immune to mind control when you can question the very things that you think you know? I think when we get dicey, we get into this idea that we go along life thinking that we know certain things to be true. Now, that's unsettling though, because in psychology, the human mind needs this framework. It needs to build a frame of how the world works and what it means to be me and who I am. And if I do this, then this. It's all this framework thing. And it helps us psychologically, because if you're going around, the biggest risk of doing what I'm suggesting is that you go nuts. If you're questioning literally everything, then psychically you can risk going nuts. So it's a delicate dance, but I think it's the ability to at least question everything that you think you know. That's my humble opinion. And am I doing that for everything? I'm sure there's stuff that has passed my awareness field and I haven't questioned yet. But continuing. But SM, great questions. Excellent. So join the discussion over there on Telegram. And Trudy is the winner this week for the best comment because of 5 up arrows. Trudy Stranger says, personally, I am a nervous wreck and I haven't slept much for days. The energies are colliding and I feel them too intensely, like a cat on a hot tin roof. Yeah, I get you. I'm literally, world is going insane. And you know what? I've just gotten, I'm counting them a 5. I think it's up to 5 now of clients that are coming in for help for psychotherapy with panic attacks. That's unusual. I haven't had any panic attacks before. None. And now I've got 5. Something up. The world's either going insane or there might be some other issues. Wink, wink. I was going into the astrology, but we want to look at the Dreambot. Number 1 word, wrap. And that's with a W, wrap. So it's not like, hey, this is a wrap. And what's interesting, if you play on metaphors, remember the recent stage problem or the concert with deaths, and there's a disagreement between mass media and eyewitnesses on how many deaths there were. But even if there's 8, that's a lot more than most. But that was a rap concert, right? I think, but that's a play on words. This is a WRAP. So it's rap and bubble both seem to me to be the same thing. It's not wrap it up, but it is sort of entrapped, if you will. You're in a bubble, we're in a wrap, and obviously bubble wrap is probably together in some dreams. That's significant too. But I couldn't correlate that to the bigger memes. So the bigger meme is Earth. That's the top word in this. And it's just things like river and rock and cities. And it's just, this is the Earth. This is us, the big world. But more importantly, I think, is the linguistics. So number one is fourth Earth realized. And oh my gosh, that just, I immediately eyebrows went up and like, whoa. So we might be getting close to some sort of ascension process, or maybe it has something to do with the law of one, dimensional density changes, or maybe it just has something to do with this lunar eclipse, and the lunar eclipse has 6 months to manifest out. So maybe over the course of the next 6 months from the 19th, maybe something like that unfolds. The fourth Earth realized. Number 2 is naked astral showed plot ship wide river events mirror series. I know that sounds like garbage. It's not really in a sentence format, but if you take these just sort of broad brushes, it looks like the ship thing is going to be exposed. That's the showed the plot. And naked implies that it's being shown. But the river, the wide river, I'm thinking like Mississippi or anywhere else that they do shipping because the rivers are so wide. I think those will start being a factor. Because events mirror. We already have shipping events over on the West Coast. Some of those ships are coming over to the East Coast so that they can supplies can get sent to Americans and businesses. So anyway, so look to see if wide rivers start to be affected by this. All right, I don't want to spend too much time, but I thought that was really interesting. Where do I go next? Astrology. The eclipse is not on this chart because I don't have the moon. If I had the moon on this chart, we'd be here, pages and pages and pages long. So we're in these goalposts between the 11th and 17th. You see a lot of red. You see a lot of green. Let me darken it up so you can see where my cursor is. You had Mars square Saturn that just got done going exact. So that's pretty much at a maximum right now as we speak, or as I speak. In the coming weeks, you have Mercury that's going to go into Sag. You also have the Sun going into Sag. And a lot of squares. We're going to talk all about that. Thursday, the 11th, it's a T-square on Saturn. So I wanted to point that out first. Remember, Saturn is no longer regressing. And so this square over to Uranus is getting tighter. It's about 5 degrees away now, and it's going to continue to get tighter and tighter until it climaxes in December. That's past the eclipse. The next solar eclipse then would be 2 weeks after November 9th or November 19th. It's going to be December 4th. And that one's a total solar eclipse. So now let's talk about Thursday, November 11th. Probably should have done 11, but whatever. You basically have a bunch of Scorpio. You have Sun, Mercury, Mars in the Scorpio. And then over here, because of the moon, you have Saturn, Moon, Jupiter all together in Aquarius. So you've got the passions, obsessions squared off or conflicted with freedoms, new ideas, the refined status quo that's happening towards the Aquarian age of knowledge, disclosure, freedom, etc., but collective good. So it's not freedom at the expense of dog eat dog or whoever gets the most resources. It's everyone benefits in Aquarian world. Everyone benefits, and each individual is free. It's beautiful. Is it utopia? No, because it's the age of Aquarius, and I am Aquarian, so no, it probably is a false utopia. Probably has its set of problems like everything else. But here, let's get back to Scorpio opposing Uranus. So this eccentric, freedom-loving, insightful Uranus and mad scientist has to be balanced with your obsessions and your probably really vindictive fighting potentially, or vindictive thoughts, secret thoughts, deep, can't get it out of my head thoughts. All these things are changing or having to be balanced with massive change and fast changing. So there's a lot happening, as you can see, and we'll just sort of go through one of them at a time. What I forgot to mention in the summary slide, and I'll do that now, is this corner over here right now. Well, outside of the purple circle out here is the solar eclipse, which isn't going to be this week. But inside this circle is the Venus sextile Mars, the Venus aspects, because Venus and Jupiter are the only things left really for this divinity and expansiveness and, positive nature and stuff. And Jupiter's in a square, so it's pretty much all Venus, right? So as we get into Venus, we see a sextile with Mars. So Mars is obsessed, is home with Scorpio, so can tend to be very vindictive fighter. But we have an opportunity with this sextile. So relationships, or Venus is goal-oriented. Relationships do well as a team right now. But there's an opportunity. It's a really nice energy. But all week it'll be here, but it's hidden. It's occluded behind all this other junk. I mean, the T-squares, the most obvious, the oppositions, even the trines will tend to be more dominant in energy-wise than this little hidden sextile. But it's important to talk about because of our triangulation. Okay. So Venus is beauty, opportunity with the obsessed fighting. We have the grace. We have grace versus the fighter. We have male and female opportunity. This is a very passionate alignment, by the way. So it can be very aggressive on the one hand, but subdued and harmonious on the other. It's together, though. It's not separate. It is combined together very, very nicely. And I think that poses a very nice opportunity if you can dig deep into that alignment all week. I think that bodes really well for you. We also have this practical nature of Capricorn. So beauty is more of a practical thing versus your emotional fighter, because you got Mars in Scorpio, the land of deep, passionate emotions. And then just passion. How about bringing some fire and some passion into your relationships? There's a big opportunity there just for romance and relationships. Okay, so that's there. The yin and the yang, Mars yang and Venus sort of a yin, and male and female. There's a lot of archetypes here. So that's there. Then we got the T-square continues, but now you've got a channel. And now we'll talk about the trine between a Neptune and Moon that's conjunct momentarily, trined over. So this is in Pisces, trined over to Scorpio with the Sun and Mercury primarily, but also Mars. And so there's that's 5 significant planets that are in an easy trine in water. So big emotions. It's a water trine. It's a very emotional day. Emotions are easily exchanged. And what that means over on this side, on the Pisces times, you're going to feel more connected to other people, maybe a mystical, maybe a telepathic time, maybe some precognition in there with your dreams. Intuition is heightened. All that is heightened. This Mercury opposed Uranus goes exact on this day. So obsessive thoughts, that's a Scorpio thoughts, balanced with, change and insight and freedom, eccentricism. Those two have to balance, and you'll be forced to balance those. On Sunday, getting into the final day of the weekend, the T-square continues. Now the T-square is on, the only T-square on Saturn left is that with Mars. And Mars is 3 degrees past the orb of Saturn. So it's segmented, and it's going to be going down in significance from here on out. But this one is a pressure building. Now you can start to see what's going to form around Jupiter. It's going to be another T-square. And this one is going exact, or getting really close to it. It's a pressure cooker for ego, Scorpio ego, and Aquarian Jupiter. Optimism is, there's like a pressure to be optimistic. If you can feel that, you've had those times where you have to try to look like you're wise or look like you're happy about things. So there's a pressure there, and that's going to form a lot of a focal point when it gets into the T-square for like a focus on luck and breakthrough. On Monday, there's another new opportunity here with, and I'm not saying it's the most dominant. I mean, all the other things we talked about are still in play, but you have Pluto Sextile Sun. And this is very powerful for the ego, and it's an opportunity. It's an ego overhaul. It's an opportunity if you want to take it. And it's a practical overhaul. So you can make your emotional ego into more of a practical transformation in how it interacts with the world at large in a goal-oriented achievement way. On Tuesday, the 16th, we have more and more focus on Venus, because this sextile with Mars is growing ever so closer. We're only 1 degree orb away. And then also you got a trine from Venus to Uranus. This is all weak, but it's strengthening as well, because Venus is at 10, Uranus is at 12. So it's getting stronger now. And at this point, it's going to start playing out. It's going to be more obvious, put it that way. You might have some big changes in relationship. It's easy to change, easy to adapt, but it's in sort of the more of the material and the finer experiences sort of setting. And Uranus is shaking things up in the material world, and thus the relationships are adapting. And it's sort of hard with Capricorn, because Capricorn sort of gets set on an objective of a hill to climb, and then Uranus throws a wrench into the plan, and you got to adapt. All right. Wednesday, the 17th, Wednesday, the 17th. T-square is still there. We're 4 degrees away. The line is not there with Saturn and Mars, but it's still there. It's 4 degrees away. So the T-square will continue for a little bit, a few more days after this. And this is not another T-square, but it is being generated. You can see the moon will be the answer as to the T-square on Jupiter. It will be, the moon will be the other corner, and that'll actually be on the eclipse day. I do have another diagram for later because our summary slide is showing definite overlaps with the coming partial lunar eclipse. So I'll have one more diagram for you. But here, the focus is on this double trine. Now, we talked about the Venus trine Uranus, but now you've got the influence of the moon. So it becomes much more emotional. And these changes, fast changing emotions, are going to easily affect the relationships. So watch that. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be a good thing. Really harmonize the relationships potentially. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because this is the next CIRF report, but because our triangulation process definitely overlaps with the lunar eclipse. I want to talk about it here. So you want to look at the Jupiter. There's your T-square. Generally speaking here, we've got the full moon and, oh, wait. 19th. This is a full moon, and yes, right, I misspoke. It's the solar eclipses that are going to be the new moons. All right. So you've got sun oppose moon, making it a full moon, and then you go down here with sun contra parallel with the moon. That indicates that it's an eclipse. And that it is on the 19th at about 2:57 a.m. Central Time. You're going to see part of the moon being eclipsed by the shade from the Earth, from sun to moon. Meanwhile, you have the T-square on Jupiter, as I mentioned before. And so this really makes a focus on fortune, optimism, but it's sort of a pressure, maybe a hope for luck. And that could be in a dire situation, but this moon represents the finer things. Taurus is the material world, stubbornness. And that goes back to SM's comment of how do you know you're not stubborn on the wrong things? You're not just programmed for it. So we'll go through all that, and we'll go through what the main things are for the general population, not each and every sign for this eclipse, but it's an important time, and it's very earthy. So it does represent some upheaval. The energies around full moons, especially around eclipses, are even more energetically chaotic. So that's a neat combination when you got chaos energy inside of a very stable, straightforward, steadfast sign like Taurus. That'll be it's got Uranus in there with Taurus, but the moon is not in conjunction with Uranus at that time. We'll talk more about this next week, but it's going to be the 19th, and then 2 weeks after that will be the new moon. I had those reversed. Sorry. And who's going to see these? This partial lunar eclipse? Well, all of Americas, and then the east part of the Orient and Australia, and then the west part of Africa and most of Europe should be able to see some of that occlusion. All right, here we go. Let's get into the I-Ching. This is 42 for the week. This is our week. This is the influence, but I'm telling you, this is the influence all the way up to the partial lunar eclipse. All right. Like a river's white water rapids, periods of increase can be of short duration. It furthers one to ride the rapids now while the waves of opportunity are high. So that's the first key to this influence, is much opportunity. Even though that's conflicted in the astrology, that doesn't mean things can't happen. In fact, big things tend to happen when you have all that pressure for too long, which we've had. And so there should be an opportunity. There should be a breakthrough here in this energy. Leadership in times of increasing opportunity involves commitment to the needs of cohorts and dependents by remembering that to lead is to serve. Politicians. To lead is to serve. A leader strengthens his or her ability to bring about a lasting increase in prosperity. And taxing more is not prosperity. And creating supply shortages is not prosperity. When the times favor prosperity, when the times favor prosperity, and when leadership is in the hands of the broad-minded, supreme good fortune is the result. So, what about when you want to ask the I-Ching, what about in times favor prosperity and the leadership is not broad-minded? What happens then? Is that supreme bad fortune? Hopefully not. There are good leaders out there. They're just getting censored. All right, line 1. When you are the recipient of what might be considered blind luck, realize that good fortune has found you because you allowed room for it to enter. Luck is most attracted to selflessness. Line 5. A kind heart does not make demands or ask for recognition. Genuine kindness and consideration flow naturally and spontaneously. In such conditions, supreme fortune abounds. My mind goes back to, so you see the hypocrisy starting playing out in sort of karmic events where people who were begging everyone else to comply and go along with whatever end up dead or end up in the hospital. And you've got people that are happy about that. And you're like, we told you so. Like this is line 5 is saying, don't do that. Just have a kind heart. Don't wish harm on anybody. And let genuine kindness and consideration flow naturally. All right, the solution is splitting apart. Look at all those yin lines, other than the top yang. That indicates the solution is not about doing a lot of things. We're back to the same thing here. Again, we thought we were having a breakthrough, but our solution is things are not the way they seem. Reality appears to be in a hall of mirrors. Intrigues are multiplying like summer flies, and there are rumors of discontent. You don't say. It is the time of illusion, disintegration, distrust, and deception. Yes. Wow. So that what we saw as the influence, could it be that this level of increase could be a very small spigot of time? And you got to be ready for it. It could be a big breakthrough for you individually, but hopefully more as a collective. So the solution is, when you find yourself trapped in a hall of mirrors, it becomes necessary to retrace your steps, return to the familiar, take solace in what is firm and secure. That really does go well with SM's question about how do you know you're not programmed? Well, retrace your steps back to what you know to be true. Take solace in what is firm and secure. The only thing firm and secure is not up here in your mind, but out here in the real world, touching the table, feeling the foam around the microphone. That's what's real. That's what's here in the here and now. So that's part of our solution. Discretion is the better part of valor, and good timing is critical. Learn to choose the proper moments for action, thereby avoiding futile effort. Pay close attention to changes that signal a time to retreat. In the realm of personal relations, discovering illusion can be painful and confusing. During a period such as this, it is wise to avoid undertaking bold new moves. It doesn't mean, again, this is the same. We've gotten the same one week after week. It's no big, bold moves, but it doesn't mean just sit around. Small steps forward, just like we have been doing. This time, pay attention to the signs. It's time to leap forward, and when it's time to come back and retreat. That's really, really important this week. So we put in Venus. I could have easily used the partial lunar eclipse, but that's next week. So I wanted to use what's imminently in this week CIRF report, and it's going to be Venus. And Venus is at 38 with a Sagittarius solution. It's the gate of the fighter. The fuel to fight is essential energy necessary to combat our fear of death. That's very ego-driven. This channel is about the struggle to know what life is of. Let me read that again. This channel is about the struggle to know that life is of value. The struggle ultimately is individual. It is the stubbornness which can overcome the odds. That, I think, our breakthrough. This is the stubbornness. That's a very Taurus thing. So even the rave is pointing towards the full moon eclipse. All right, going into the line, it's the ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces. So as you're opposing the detrimental forces, you have to stay in integrity. That's the whole point of this gate. So Venus is in 10 Capricorn 59, and it's the line of politeness, opposition that does not transgress normal codes of behavior. So we have to stay in the rule of law, not that we go out of that right now to make our voices heard. The value of discretion, the energy for the intuitive awareness for discretion. And on the downside, if you do this poorly, it says an over politeness that is both servile and obviously superficial and defeats its very purpose. So it's asking you to not be too polite. So there's a delicate dance here. You stay within the confines of law and rules and ethics, but you don't be too polite. You don't self-sacrifice too much. And that's a very solution-oriented comment. So let's go to the final slide. And just a review of what I-Ching 42, that's remember our feeling, our influence of an increase. It means feelings of progress and prosperity, feelings of expansiveness, seeming opportunities arise. Only the broad-minded leadership will achieve supreme success, but it is grounded in the now. It's not a pretend sort of a feeling. And I'm calling it divine because I have a hunch that the Dreambot is onto something, or it's just a partial lunar eclipse, and just is also divine. All right. So we had the I-Ching 23. This is the most diversified solution in CIRF history, but none of these contradict each other. Let me go through this. So Sidereal Sagittarius is expansive. There's another part of our expansive and free and wise. So if the odds are against you, this week is for you. Even if your perceptions, even if what are the odds against us? Or have we heard that the world is ending ever since we were born? You hear this all the time. The world's about to end. If we don't do this, we're going to end. Let's have a lot of faith in humanity. And I don't think we're the underdog, but I bet most of us feel like we are. If the odds are against you, this week is for you. The comeback kid, the underdog, your week for overcoming the odds. And the term week there is W-E-E-K. This is the week for overcoming the odds. For starters, pay attention to your actions. Don't be hypercritical. Don't be in self-judgment, but do slow down. Double check your work. Don't cut corners. Allot for time for projects and no bold moves. Tune into your intuition to understand when to push forward and when to push back, when to pull back. The Sagittarius solution provides the wisdom to navigate this week and the space and freedom to make it happen. It's a very spiritual time. So use the Sidereal solution to remain optimistic, expansive, and free to explore the most important areas of your life. The influence is very similar to the Sag solution. That's the expansion. So imagine this. So we have the I-Ching of increase, and we have the Sag Sidereal solution of increase and expansion. But don't get too lost in that. Don't get too lost in the expansive optimism to where it feels pressured. Stay grounded. Stay out in the real world. Stay in the here and now. Pay attention to what's important to you. That's your higher values. And don't bite off more than you can chew. I have no idea what next week's triangulation process looks like. I haven't even started that process. All I know is that there's that partial lunar eclipse, and it's an influence already, as we can tell from the triangulation process. It explains it better than just the Venus alignments. But overall, it could be a tricky week in that if you're expecting sort of just a constant funnel of expansiveness and woohoo and breakthrough, I think you're going to get let down. I think it's going to come in short bursts, as indicated by our I-Ching 23 and the rave. But this is overcoming the odds week. So if you feel like an underdog, which I'd be surprised if you didn't, because after all, the majority is being censored and just seems like it's being bulldozed over. I see so many, social media statements saying, when's the shit going to end? When is the shit show going to end? When's the circus going to end? We're all impatient. We all are. So we feel like the underdog, the comeback kid. This is our week. All right. So get ready to pounce when you need to, but don't just make a big old broad statement that you're going to get this big old project done this week. You've got to assess each and every day, each and every hour, if it's right for you to put out this sort of energy. Put up the needed energy to finish that particular project. So check in with yourself. Use your intuition. It's that internal knowing. And I think that's it. So thanks everybody for your comments. And we'll see you next week before the big full moon partial lunar eclipse. All right. Take care, everybody. Be well.